Kia ora koutou katoa, nau mai, haere mai ki tēnei, te whare o te kaunihera o Rotorua. Ladies and gentlemen, sincere warm welcome to our Te Arawa 2050 Vision Committee meeting, the last one for this term. So, before continuing on, I'd like to hand over to Kingi Biddle, who will do an appropriate karakia mihi kia koutou.
O tēnā tātou.
Kia mātou.
Tēnā tātou e te whare, I roto I tēnei huihuinga whakamutunga, o tēnei o ngā kaupapa o tātou. Ki wetehi, he huinga whakamutunga ki tēnei o ngā tūru, no reira, ka nui te mihi, I roto I ngā kupu I ngā whakaroi I waihotia nei e koutou, I roto I te roanga o tēnei o ngā noho, no reira tēnā koutou kei te uri o taikata, Uncle Alec, he manu mātārai o mua, he mātanga, he toki, he pātaka kōrero, he pātaka whakaro, te kuaha kua kapia, kia au te moe. I te uri o hinei tūrama, e te uri o toko aitua, te pāpā e batahau, takoto ai o mai, kōrua ki kauaira no takoto I hoai, kōrua e hikoi nei te hikoi, o tira koutou te hunga, kua ngaro I roto I te wiki te marama o te tau. Ana rātou kia rātou tātou kia tātou te pito ora tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa, ka tika me inoi nei tātou. Tūtawa mai runga, tūtawa mai raro, tūtawa mai roto, tūtawa mai waho, kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora ki te katoa, haumi e hui e tā iki. O reire te pautaki, I te hea tangata kei a koe te wā.
Thank you very much. Oh, aroha mai. Thank you very much, Kingi Biddle, and again, sincere warm welcome to everybody. Just before we get underway with our agenda, I'd like us to, first of all, I'd like to pay homage to farewell and have a minute's silence for former councillor of the Rotorua City Council, Uncle Alec Wilson. And I know that also down home over the weekend down Ohinamutu, Tamatakapua, the Paramount Marae of Te Arawa, I know the Hokainga, they appreciated many of our staff and people who were able to get there for his tangi on Monday morning. So again, I think back, I only just started here 48 years ago, and Alec was a councillor then. That was his final term. But if I could ask you just to stand for a minute's silence for the late Councillor Alec Wilson. Kia ora. Thank you very much now, and we move on to what the apologies, and we have sincere apologies from Mayor Tapsell and Councillor Greg Brown, Councillor Don Patterson, and also to Bawiri Wadu. So, do we need to formalise a move?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Depending on when the meeting finishes, early departure, as I need to attend a community board meeting.
Thank you. I was going to mention that too. Thank you, Fisher.
To you, Mr. Chair, apology from Te Wai Hotene.
Te wai.
Te wai. I karaua e smaa ui.
Okay. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Sandra Kaifong and newly elected Councillor Karen Barker. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Now, declarations of interest. Call for any declarations. There being none, we go on to item 4, urgent items not on the agenda. A call for any urgent items, no. Kapai. Members, there is a minor matter for discussion today regarding the diesel tanker spill on the 15th of August on State Highway 5. There will be no decision making on the matter, but we will invite Stavros Michael to speak to that item later on. So, shall we do it now? Maybe. I think we can do that. Thank you, Stavros. Can we do that now? Yeah.
Kia ora tātou katoa. Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for this opportunity to respond to that matter. I think the facts of the case are as follows. On 15th of August, about 3 a.m. in the morning, a diesel tanker was traveling from south to north. And unfortunately, the driver suffered a medical event, and unfortunately, the driver died, on the scene. The tanker carries somewhere in the region of 30,000 liters of diesel. As the driver lost control of the vehicle veered off the road and tipped on the side of the road. And the tanker obviously overturned, and a spillage has occurred. The first responders to this incident is, as always, the police, followed by emergency medical services, and followed by the Fire and Emergency New Zealand. On arriving at the scene, they obviously identified, the incidents and the potential hazardous material spillage. The protocol for response to that is a call to the hotline, the pollution line, that is administered and led by the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, who have responded and were on the scene a couple of hours later from the timing of the incidents. The pollution response team of the Bay Regional Council made an initial assessment that there was no apparent diesel spillage that affected the nearby waterways, and they proceeded to mop up and use induction trucks, to soak and vacuum, whatever diesel was on the side of the roads, and on the berm of the road. Subsequent, to that, early morning, response, rain, commenced, and obviously with rain soaking the ground, rain leached into the ground, from the ground to the waterways, and it was apparent that some diesel in an early stages was entering the waterways. The pollution team of the Bay of Plenty Regional Council have proceeded to install booms and response measures, to control the spillage. In subsequent investigations, they identified that roughly half of the 32,000 liters of diesel that was contained in the tanker were unaccounted for. That does not mean that all the diesel has entered the waterways. A lot of it has been soaked into the ground, and obviously, with rainfall, it gradually will leach from the ground into the receiving environment, and also a significant portion of it will be naturally evaporating. There were a number of concerns raised, both to me personally by members of the public and members of iwi who are involved into notifying the process. And we have raised those matters with our colleagues in the Bay of Plenty Regional Council for future improvements. One is that the pollution team, on an early stages of their assessment and the arrival on the site to respond to the emergency, misdiagnosed the scale of potential pollution of the waterways by the incidents. Because they've done that assessment and they have issued a public notice later in the day that there was no diesel has entered the waterways, they've considered to be not necessarily to provide warning signs or to seek additional help for cleaning up the spillages. That matter has been discussed with our colleagues in the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, and subsequent to that, over the weekend, our own staff assisted the pollution line and the emergency team to go and put signs alongside the pouring stream to make sure that people have at least some level of indication to avoid getting into the water. The second element of concern raised by many members of the public, and especially from iwi and subsequently to the Rotorua Lakes Strategy Group, was that what appeared to be insufficient or perhaps ineffective communication with with Tuhurangi, Rotorua Lakes Trust, Ngāti Whakaui, and all mana whenua affected parties. The Bay of Plenty Regional Council have advised that actually they have notified their contact points in those entities. However, there is some question as to how widespread that notification went through and who was leading that, that incident. So those matters are now under consideration, and the chair of the Bay of Plenty Regional Council has committed in the strategy group to provide a full factual report of what happened, when happened, who responded, the time frames and the time notifications. And obviously, until we receive that report, we have to, we have to consider together with our colleagues in the regional council as to whether any improvement processes are necessary or required to be implemented. On the perspective of the long-term effects, the experts from the Bay of Plenty Regional Council pollution line advise this is going to be a long process. The booms remain in place. There will be ongoing efforts to address and mitigate the effects on the waterways of the diesel. The last information I had from that is that it was not observed that any diesel was evident in the lower reaches of the Porenga stream. But it rather was contained in the embankments and within the immediate vicinity of the incidents. So that's where we are at the moment. We'll continue to work with the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, and obviously whatever assistance is necessary, we continue to extend it. If there are lessons to be learned from the initial response, the initial notifications, the initial actions taken, obviously will be subject to what the Bay of Plenty Regional Council's forensic report will identify, and we as the Rotorua Lakes Council, as always, are more than happy to work with them to address any gaps in our collective response, and especially with regards to notification and utilization of available resources in the community to assist with the incident. So that's all I wanted to say at this point in time, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any partai from anyone? Any questions to Stavros? Te taru.
A member of the committee. Yes, Stavros is quite correct in his summary of what happened. Apologies, I'm still wearing my regional council jacket. I just came from a meeting, but I do have an iwi jacket underneath. So saying, look, the reality is that they were there in the morning and it was dark. They had to wait for light to come as well, but they did get on early. They put the booms up. But one of the things that's a big learning experience, we were under the impression that they had actually contacted with key iwi groups, over 20 on the list. But it's one thing, you know, the learning thing here is it's one thing having a list of contacts. It's another thing of really working deeply into those contacts, making sure that they are okay with everything. You can have one contact, but it doesn't pass on. And that's the flaw in this particular consultation round. So that's the learning experience from the Regional Council, that actually consultation on this matter was really important. The first issue was actually make sure you could halt the diesel any further, as best you can. And so far it hasn't reached whakarewa so far, and we're hoping that it won't. So efforts have been put in to make sure, keep a close monitoring on that, and even beyond that to the lake. You know, that would be catastrophic. But diesel obviously evaporates pretty quickly as well. It's going to take some time. But so far, so good. In that sense, if I can say so good. But the reality is here, the key learning is connection and consultation, and making sure that people out there are aware of this, and it goes more than a phone list of people and ringing up. It requires follow-up. And there's about 25 names of 25 organisations they put notes to online. But that's not good enough, and we know that. So there's improvement required, but it's quite a devastating thing, and I just want to again acknowledge the loss of life in this particular situation with the driver. That's unfortunate for him and his family, and of course, now we have to address this spill, which can have devastating effect if it goes any further than it is, than we hope it does not. So, Mr. Chair, I thought that might be a useful addition to Stavros's conversation.
Thank you, Te Taru. Thank you, Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for you. Thank you for your verbal. Stavros, can I just ask, is the... Okay. Stavros, could I ask, I take it after this event, even though we have a minor role to play compared to cousins over at Regional Council. Thank you. Apologies, hope that's better. Could I ask, will there be a review of some kind as to the actions, etc., how responses were? If I can follow on from Regional Councillor White's questions to you.
Yes, Councillor O'Brien, I think, excuse me, the commitment that the chair of the Regional Council has made on the strategy group on the 22nd was that a full, detailed report of the incident, will be produced, outlining and detailing times, the responses, the gaps, the lessons, to be learned from that. And obviously, again, we always open to learn from events like that and rectify and bridge any gaps that are there. As Councillor Tataru said, the issue of notification is one thing, and obviously we need to learn from it, because the more people are aware of it, the more collective use you got, the more collective responses you can get from that, and obviously awareness. The second issue in early stages is that an initial assessment has been made, which has proven to be incorrect at that point in time, and I'm not expressing any view about it. It's natural. At 3 o'clock in the morning, people are focusing in addressing the emergency, the disease person, traffic control, and all this, all these kind of elements. Subsequent to that, though, I think we had an opportunity to perhaps be more proactive in terms of warning signs, in terms of elimination or minimization of the risk. But I'm only speculating at this point in time. We were to receive the report from the people in the Regional Council, and our collegial responsibilities here and roles need to identify what areas we can improve onto that. So the answer, in short, is yes.
Thank you. And do you mind if I just clarify for people that may be watching this online? Yeah. So it'll be probably a Regional Council-led review? And could you also advise, will there be an opportunity for this committee?
Well, I'm pretty sure this committee will have an opportunity to receive the report and the subsequent recommended actions from that. I think would be, it would be abnormal if we don't, share that. The report is, the lead agency for the report is the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, but we do have a joint and collective responsibility to protect our receiving environment, and we have roles in different scenarios. For example, you have a sewage spillage, we are the lead agency. If there hazardous material into the water, the regional council has a lead agency. But collectively, we join together, to address it, and obviously that report, the recommendations and subsequent actions should be made public and will be made public.
Thank you. And just finally, Mr. Chair, if that's okay, could I just ask if there are any costs associated with that exercise, bearing in mind again, can I talk at the sentiments of Councillor White with the sad loss of life they'd experienced. Again, that'll be something Regional Council follows up, considering they did most of that work?
That's correct. The pollution team is operated by the Bay of Plenty Regional Council. I think the report last Friday indicated that somewhere in the region of $40,000 already was spent on that. But the communications and contacts with the trucks insurance company are in place at the moment, because the insurance obviously will cover some of this cost. But the lead agency for carrying those costs and perhaps claiming from insurance company is the Bay of Plenty Regional Council.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your answers. And again, our thanks to your staff and also those from Regional Council who did such a great job. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chief.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tataru.
Yeah, Mr. Chief, just to add to the response, absolutely the the Chair and the Chief Executive are working on the full response on the Regional Council. Due, I believe, from 2 weeks from when it happened, so it should be about a week or so away. The other issues too that, the saving grace is that action was taken immediately, so there was no delay. The problem was in consultation and connection with the wider community. In terms of recovering of costs, there's no doubt that'll be part of the examination around the company itself, sadly, given the loss of life, but there will be some questions asked and answered in that particular space as what is the liability in the space.
Thank you, Te Taru. Any further partai? Hear me? Kei a koe.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Stavros. Just like to speak to the loss of life that has been mentioned. I'm wondering if you're able to comment as to the extent of any that individual councils or collectively reached out to the deceased family, offer commiserations and support. I wonder if you're able to comment in regards to that.
My honest answer is that I don't know. I understand, authorities from the, police, fire emergency in New Zealand, and those agencies were dealing with a vehicle crash, are the, lead agencies, to contact the family. Maybe there were contacts by other agencies. I'm not aware of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Stavros. Thank you. I'll ask, are there any other minor matters before we move further on? Okay, fine. And now I'd like to go to 5.3, which is the minutes of the Te Arawa 20 Vision Committee held on the 3rd of July. There's a motion there, but first of all, can I have a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the Te Arawa 20 Vision Committee meeting held 3rd of July be confirmed as a true and correct record? Mover, Councillor Wang. Seconder, Hemi. And I'll put it to the motion now. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Now moving on to item 7, staff reports. And first one that we have here is 7.1, Recovered Water Management Solution Project Plan. And that's on page 12. Yes, we have a mover. Sarge was seconded by Councillor O'Brien, and now open for we'll vote on it now. Okay, we'll vote. I'll put the vote to the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Now I'll invite, Stavros is there. And is he in grey with you? Just you, Stavros. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. I would take the report as read and happy to respond to any questions you may have. I just want to make only 2 or 3 pertinent points in that report for collective information. Obviously, the management of fully recovered water from the treatment processes is got a very long history. Some of you probably remember that that history extends back into the 2012, 2013, where agreements have been reached that it would be desirable eventually to move away from the forest where the current land treatment system occurs. For a number of years, from 2013, 2014 onwards, efforts have been made to identify alternative solutions to that disposal of the recovered water, and that led to a collective commitment for the wastewater treatment plant to be fully upgraded, far above the current treatment plant's capability and capacity to treat in a way that will no longer require the land treatment system to remove nitrogen, phosphorus and pathogens from the recovered water. That work has been commissioned back in 2020, and the treatment plant upgrade status is progressing at this point in time, and we expect the full upgrade of the treatment plant to be ready on a nominal date in June 2026. It may last a little bit longer, but thereabouts, that is the contract to our expectation. In parallel with that work, we also started looking into, together with our partners, especially the CNI, the Central North Island iwi, who have controlled the forest, and we have an agreement under the Kawinata that discharge into the forest should discontinue within the foreseeable future, provided that an alternative long-term sustainable solution has been found. Unfortunately, to date, we have not been able to find an alternative solution, although in the Kawinata agreement we entered with the CNI in 2021, an agreement was made that once the treatment plant has been upgraded and no longer will require the extended footprint in the land currently utilized, a smaller place in the forest, about 10% of the current land footprint, will be used to discharge the recovered water. We have not been able to do that so far, and obviously that Kawinata agreement is still in force, which we are is subject to conversations with CNI. Now, noting those 2 facts, that the treatment plant upgrade is progressing and we expect it to be finished sometime in 2026, then a need for a viable and long-lasting solution is required. Elected members and Rotorua Lakes Council has proposed and discussed with a number of entities the need to re-establish a working group where possible solutions or potential solutions to the recovered water can be explored, and then members of the community and Manawhenua represented these nominations can participate into a joint effort to renew a fresh consideration as to where that solution may lie and what shape and form. That working group composition and has been subject of consideration by the Rotorua Lakes Council, and the council has actually agreed to the general principles of the terms of reference of the working group, where a number of options may be considered and would eventually be recommended back to the council for adoption in due course. In order to facilitate that work for solution exploration, a multi-criteria assessment process framework has been established. The Rotorua Lakes Council has considered that multi-criteria assessment and will be given effect by the working group and their technical advisors in exploring various options. The use of the multi-criteria assessment comprises two stages. It's stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1 are the pass or fail criteria. Pass means that any proposed solution has to meet technical feasibility, it has to meet legal regulatory requirements, and obviously it needs to meet the Council's affordability levels attached to the long-term plan financial allocation made to that respect. And stage 2 of the multi-criteria assessment encompasses a number of values and a number of weighting to those values. And obviously the working group will continue to work faithfully within those frameworks to receive and explore various potential options and solutions, and then slowly sieve those solutions against those multi-criteria assessments with the eventual objective of reporting back to the Council for a final recommendation to be considered for adoption. The most important thing is that the Council has recognized that it requires community assistance in that respect, and therefore a working group has been established that comprises elected members, comprises nominations and representatives of Mana Whenua, representatives of this group, the Tatawa Arawa, a representative of the Puarenga Reference Group that has been working with the Council for a number of years to consider smaller footprint options into the forest, and some community representatives. So the Council has adopted all those processes and recommendations, and this report basically outlines for this committee the background to that, the rationale for it, and the current status of the process. Elected members tomorrow, in the Council meeting tomorrow, will further ratify and verify the composition of the working group. And obviously, we aim to start work on that process by mid-September, with a view of exploring options. So the new elected council in the new year will consider these options and receive any recommendations to that effect. So that's all I had to say. And again, as usual, happy to take any questions you may have. Between myself and Paul, we will try to respond to any questions you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stavros. I'll ask Andrew Moraes, our Chief Executive, to comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could I just reflect on the fact that this is probably one of the most significant pieces of work ahead of this council that we know of at this point in time. I have indicated that through my pre-election report. We've also had a discussion amongst this council, and there's a general acknowledgement that this is a very significant intergenerational decision that will be placed ultimately before the new council. Quite a lot of work has gone on in the last 6 to 8 months, particularly to bring this matter to this point. That has included 3 meetings which I myself hosted with iwi chairs from across the entire district, as well as numerous one-on-one and individual staff and board member meetings. The conclusion of that is what you see before you. It is a 2-stage multi-criteria process to tackle what is, again, a very challenging opportunity in front of us. As Stavros mentioned, tomorrow at the last council meeting of the year, there is a paper for council's decision on confirming the groups represented in that working group. Some of that has been as a result of feedback that Te Tatou have provided to us, so I wanted to acknowledge that input we've had as well. It's my significant hope as the interim chair of that working group that all members of the working group enter into really positive, constructive analysis of the ideas that come forward, because this is something as a community as a whole we're going to need to solve. So I'll leave my comments there, but I just wanted to reiterate the magnitude of this kaupapa and the work that's gone ahead of us to set it up for success. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Kia ora, thank you, Andrew. And any pātai? Questions or clarification? Te taru?
I should know this, but what's the timeline for this, Andrew?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's an aspirational timeline. We are indicating that we would like to convene the first meeting on the 18th of September. We've got a number of nominations, but obviously we won't be discussing any names here in public until we've concluded the process of appointing those parties. And there is still an open process to go through for some of the proposed roles. So indicative time frame is first meeting 18th of September, with the stage 1 work I would like to complete within the first 6 months, and then proceeding on to subsequent phases beyond that.
Councillor Barker, aloha from my koro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the report, Stavros. Just for some that might be listening as background, the last time that the working group was established and went through various criteria to work through options, the state of the wastewater treatment plant and its capability and capacity were quite different to what they will be when we do this next set of analysis. Is that correct? And if not, can you just tell us what conditions may have changed since the last time this process was carried out some time ago?
The technical advisory group established, I think, in 2014, a range of people, both EU representatives, community representatives, technical advisors, and so on, started from the premise that the need to leave the land treatment system into the forest was necessary for the current treatment plant, because the current treatment plant process does not remove all nitrogen and phosphorus to the required level before discharging to the lake. Therefore, you needed the land to do a lot of filtration for that aspect. And also the current treatment system does not have a system for treating pathogens and viruses into no UV treatments. The technical advisory group always proceeded from the basis that the treatment plant upgrade is necessary to achieve full treatment within the treatment plant itself, so only a point of discharge is required on the full knowledge that the nitrogen, phosphorus, and pathogens will be removed at the treatment phase. So, yes, the current treatment plant is not able to achieve the 30 tons nitrogen per annum and 3 tons of phosphorus per annum and elimination of viruses, because we don't have these processes in place. But the new treatment plant will be able to do it at the source, at the treatment source, and therefore the recovered water coming out of the treatment plant would be able to meet all these requirements, and including new emerging regulations, that the national government is proposing at this point in time.
And if I might, through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor, you asked about what has changed. Maybe there's 2 other pieces of legislative change that might be relevant to this kōrero. One is that, along with the local water done well legislation, the government has changed the consenting process whereby any consent holders, including district councils, can discharge wastewater to a receiving environment rather than leaving those unto individual regulatory authorities. So in this case, it would be Bay of Plenty Regional Council. Instead of leaving it to them, there are now national standards that have been published by legislation, and they determine the quality of the wastewater required to grant a consent for discharge to any receiving environment. So there's a table, and according to that table, the water quality will determine what is permitted and what is not. The second thing that has changed is with the proposed, or is likely to change, is with the proposed resource management changes that are coming through central government, the ability of councils and any other consent holder to continue to operate under what's called Section 124 will disappear. And that is a widely used method for consent holders at the moment to go through years and years of a consenting process and continue to operate under the previous consent. So that will cease, and the government has indicated that will be a potentially 3-year runway to ending those provisions once that legislation passes. It's due to pass before the general election in October next year. So those are the two significant regulatory context changes that are also relevant.
Te taru.
Kia ora, Mr. Chair. A key to this is obviously going to be relationships, Mr. Chair, and on my because at the end of the day, you know, there are the landowners, there's the Arawa Lakes Trust that has responsibility for management of the lakes and ownership of the lake there. You've got all of these combined groups that are out there at the moment, and obviously getting to a point of common interest and really navigating that space is going to be quite the journey. How much progress has been made so far? You're still at the starting point, I assume, with all of that, as well as communication with the wider community. But I'm sort of looking at the mana whenua, which is where some things can actually raise their head pretty early. So being able to calm that particular side of things before it sort of gets its own momentum is important. Anybody got a comment on that?
Through you. No tēnā koe. E pātai pai tēnā. I can speak to that. We are in weekly engagement with mana whenua across the district. There are concerns being raised as this process, like normal, and those concerns are genuine, and they are more around the detail, and which has reminded us to, at some stages, we have to go out and repeat the engagement that we've already had. So we are engaging regularly through their mandated officials, and at the right time, that will then stretch into, once they are comfortable and confident, the targeted engagement will occur as the process evolves. But we are in almost daily conversations with certainly our the mana whenua, I guess, up in Whakariwarewa. You know, there is an ongoing relationship there with CNI. Their concerns and their positions have been well articulated, and so we're in weekly conversations with them. They've got lots of questions for us, and we're working to meet with them and answer their questions. A lot of it is around clarity. The other part is actually, once the working group is set up, there'll be a significant piece of work to do once the working group's in place to understand how the working group wants to proceed, obviously in alignment with the terms of reference as set by elected members of Rotorua Lakes Council. So in addition to that, we've got resource coming online to support us to do that engagement, and that is all part of the project. So, you know, we are, I guess the summary is we are ramping up to ensure the engagement for mana whenua and the community is the best that we can be.
Any further? Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Perhaps a question for Andrew. I'm reading the purpose of the steering group on the terms of reference, the first sentence. It says, previous attempts to find a solution for the disposal of our recovered water from our main water treatment plant have been unsuccessful. But Rotorua Lakes Council is committed to finding a suitable solution. So I think that's a reference to 2014, when a working group or steering group was set up back then. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Technical Advisory Group, was established in 2014-2015 and concluded their work in 2018.
So they did a very extensive cultural assessment of what a suitable solution might look like, only for that to be vetoed by the Arawa Lakes Trust. Is that correct?
I would use different terms, for that, Councillor Aoli. The working group, the TAC arrived at the recommendation, and that recommendation was jointly agreed between the Rotorua Lakes Council and the Bay of Plenty Regional Council to be referred to the Environment Court for decision, because eventually it would have to go through that way. Arawa Lakes Trust, on behalf of a number of Hapu and mana whenua, raised, opposition to that recommendation, and obviously that would have been a considerable a considerable factor into the Environment Court's decision making, and that led to the removal of the application of the Environment Court in order to explore, perhaps different opportunities, with iwi and Arawa Lakes Trust and Manawhenua. We also need to know that at that point in time, the CNI group, who controls the forest, I think they offered, to Rotorua Lakes Council generously at least another 10 years until not earlier than 2030 or no later than 2042 to continue to stay into the forest under the Covenant Agreement. So that's in summary the background to it.
Okay, so they effectively vetoed the project.
Well, it was a council decision not to proceed to the Environment Court. There's no veto into the Environment Court. The council made a decision to withdraw its application to the Environment Court.
So how much did that particular round cost the ratepayers of Rotorua?
Well, I think just, I apologize if I'm not very accurate, but, our Chief Financial Officer reported to the Council's annual plan, considerations. There were costs, what you call sunk costs into the process that could not be capitalized, and that was in the region of $4 million from memory.
Was that the $7 million that we wrote off on the 2nd of July?
Councillor, I believe there were a number of components to that. And
there's a 4.9 million component and a 2 million component, if I remember rightly.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Stavros has tried to answer as best he can.
In the report, you're on the report, yeah.
So if this is such difficult waters to navigate, and we've already spent $7 million doing this, how can the ratepayers be confident that, how much is this going to cost us going forward for this round, is my question.
The councillors, elected members of the Rotorua Lakes Council have given us some specific frameworks and boundaries, for these projects. As you recall, the budget definition, the budget split between the upgraded treatment plant and the recovered water has been agreed by the councillors, and they have very strict parameters, in how much money is being allocated to the efforts. It's in our annual plan.
Perhaps another 7 million.
I can't speculate, Councillor.
Right. Partnerships are expensive, I guess. No further questions.
Any further questions? Part-time comments? Ko koe potaua? Come. Did you want to make any final comments? Okay. I'm going to now ask for a mover and a seconder of recommendation 2, but I won't read them all out because they're all up on the board there. But I'll just say on recommendation 3 that the committee endorses the approach outlined in this report. So 2 and 3. Can I ask for a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Wang. Seconder, Councillor Conan O'Brien. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Are we not going to have a round of debates?
You want to have a, yeah. Arawa mai. Those were questions earlier, weren't they? Yeah. Okay, now open for debate. Kōrero mai. And thank you, Mr. Stavros and Paula. Thank you. And now to us, the committee, kōrero mai, the debate now. Thank you, Lani. Councillor Kadeopa.
Thank you. As was the case when Council discussed and voted on this, I'm not supportive. There were two options for weightings. One of the other options was equal weighting for the relationship with mana whenua and environmental outcomes, pretty much alongside costs, economic costs. That was voted down. Council decided to make total lifestyle cost and implementation risk of more importance or of more weighting than the relationship with mana whenua, community acceptance and environmental outcomes. I don't believe that is appropriate. I believe that the weightings as they are support the status quo of decisions consistently being made for economic reasons above environmental reasons, and limits the treaty rights of mana whenua to be able to uphold our cultural rights as kaitiaki of our lands and waterways. So I'm not supportive of it. Thank you very much.
Councillor Te Taru.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm just trying to recall some memory about discharge of our waters into the lake going way back. 2015 December, Tata was established. In April the following year, this matter came across the table around discharge of water straight into the lake was the option. And there was a question that, is the water good enough to drink? All these sorts of things were happening, but it was a view that discharge into the lake would be the preferable option. At that particular, my recall in April is that Tato said, well, there needed to be more conversations with the mana whenua out there before this thing takes place. Because there had been very limited, if any, consultation with the mana whenua, in particular those out at Ngāpuna and those places out there. And so there was a move to reconcile that and step back from it and then look at the consultation process. That activated and then things just went into, it got to a point, I guess, long story short, where the decision was made to discharge to the land while things were sorted out in the context of which is probably where we are now. I think the lesson from that particular time was consultation was really, really important in establishing that relationship earlier rather than later, and doing it before the event than after the event or when you're about to do the event. So it's just another lesson in connection and consultation. Get that right and because we all know that something needs to be done. If it's going to be discharged to the land, that'll have its problems. If it's going to be discharged to the lake, then that water needs to be of a sufficient quality and proven quality in order to do that. And that seemed to be the preferred option. But, and it just seems to me that this may be moving down that line, which will require a lot of consultation and explanation about what you wish to do. Because, it's a big ticket item and it's going to be challenging. But, getting that consultation right will be important, really important.
Thank you. And Councillor Wang, I appreciate you're going to go to a meeting soon. As a move of the motion, did you say anything?
Happy to reserve my comments at the end.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Not going? Sorry, it was...
Oh.
Thank you, Chair. This paper has already come to Council for decision. I really wanted to seek the support of Te Tato regarding this. It is a complex set of work that we're about to embark on. Obviously, as Te Tato has mentioned, there are lessons from the past that we need to look at, and obviously how we consult the community, how we consult with mana whenua and bring them along with us
is really, really important. And so from this piece of work, what we have asked the council staff to establish is how we can work more closely with mana whenua and how we can engage with key stakeholders so that we bring them along in an advisory capacity. Part of that will be to drive that further deeper mana whenua and community engagement, and also just to help us through a fairly complex decision-making framework. So I know that Council has worked in the past with hui, with iwi chairs. Obviously, we've tried to narrow the sort of decision-making framework by coming up with a set of criteria. I know that not everyone will necessarily be happy with the framework, but the thing was we needed a starting point to drive that decision-making process. So Council came up with the Stage 1 criteria and the Stage 2 values, and obviously there are some different weightings and values attached to that, but the concern around the relationship with mana whenua, the environmental and the community acceptance, if you wrap those three together, that's 30%. So 30 to the community support environmental outcomes, 30 to the actual economic costs, because Council does not have a open-ended checkbook to drive solutions. It does need to be a robust process. It does need to be economically viable. The ratepayers cannot be saddled with a hugely expensive treatment plant and discharge solution, because we all know that rates increases are not going to be sustainable if we do not come up with solutions that are going to be cost effective. And the other thing is that we just need to make sure that whatever we choose is actually going to be actually able to be implemented. So I know we had a slide which suggested we should perhaps send it to the moon. We know that's not going to be feasible, and it's going to cost more than we could afford. So I think that we would just, from a council perspective, really like to urge Te Tātou Aotearoa representatives, if you are comfortable with this. It is a starting point. There is a lot of work still to be done, but we did need to start somewhere, so we would really like to seek the support of this committee. Council will make a final decision tomorrow as to the final adoption of this, so just urging this committee's support for this process. Thank you, Chair.
Any further kōrero?
No, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I certainly, support the process that you're going through now, with the views that Councillor Kaifong has shared, well, to ensure that the integrity of the consultation, and has to start earlier rather than later, because if you delay it, that's where the sort of theories start evolving. Usually all wrong. So it's important that we get onto that pretty quickly when you've got the right information assigned. So, Mr. Chair, I'm supportive. I don't know, Mr. Chair, I'd like to hear from our Chair of Te Arawa what your views are.
Mr. Hamiora.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have had discussions in regards to the stages, the values and the criteria. We have submitted nomination for the working group. So at this stage, we're supportive of what has been proposed. However, I would like to highlight the aspiration or the desire that all things Te Ao Māori, Mātauranga Māori and Tikanga Māori are not left to be discussed only under relationships with mana whenua. I think it's critical that those kaupapa, those conversations are equally as important under community acceptance and support, and under environmental outcomes as well. So I'm not an expert in terms of being able to articulate what a Te Ao Māori view, what a Mātauranga Māori view is. I would hope that we have experts in the working group that can articulate. So just want to indicate to mātou tautoko, but also to highlight that we are strongly of the opinion that Te Ao Māori Mātauranga Māori is not confined just to relationships with mana whenua, that they're equally important parts of the conversation and the other criteria that have been highlighted. Tēnā tātou.
Thank you, Hemi. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was of the understanding that the previous time Council embarked on this particular mission to find a solution for what to do with our recovered water, that the committee was well informed about Te Ao Māori view and Mātarangi Māori considerations, which makes it all the more baffling that Te Arawa Lakes Trust decided to effectively veto that particular solution of the contact bed that was recommended some, 7 years ago or thereabouts. I do think we do need to learn lessons from the past, and embarking on a repeat of what failed last time around doesn't seem to be that. I hear the Deputy Mayor talk about how Council and, should we say, the ratepayers don't have an open-ended chequebook. Well, $7 million last time around, and where's this going? I think what we learnt from the Rotorua protest, when a group of local protesters attempted to exercise a right of veto on the Tarawera reticulation scheme, the courts, I think it was the Environment Court, articulated the legal position, which is that the protesters did not enjoy a right of protest under the relevant law. And I don't believe that the ratepayers can afford this particular route, and so I wouldn't be supporting it if I was going to be voting for this. But as is my custom at this particular committee, I choose not to vote because I understand that unelected persons operating on a council committee does not fall within the purpose of the Local Government Act, which is to enable democratic decision-making. Some of us at the table here today will be here for the last time, I suppose, definitely in one case. And all of us councillors and elected members face and are accountable to the public for our decisions and the decisions that we've made over the last 3 years. Others at this committee will be here and the next time this committee meets, regardless of what the public have to say or whether they support this. And I find that not just troubling, but in my view and my understanding of the law, it's outside of the purpose of the Local Government Act and therefore unlawful. So, therefore, I shall be abstaining.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Every member around this table is elected. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just before I start my comments, I hope you'll forgive me if I just quote from a Venn citizen at the time who may be a councillor today. Yeah, and forgive me, it's on a different subject, but if I may read. To the golf club, the golf course is a taonga. This is not just any course, this is Danny Lee's home course, New Zealand's top golfer in the last 10 years. More than that, it is their tūranga waiwai. To the residents who live in the area, who made investment decisions over the last 70 years, it is also a taonga. Now, just for clarification, that was then citizen Robert Lee, now Councillor Robert Lee. Beautifully said too, in correct spelling, so I give credit there. I only raise that because it's surprising to me that on one hand, I support everything that Deputy Mayor Kai Fong said, and I would ask our colleagues from Te Tātou today to consider not just what's up there in front, but the entire report, because the entire report summarises what this council has tried to do. Maybe in history, maybe we'll look back and say we didn't do enough, we failed, whatever. But this has certainly been an honest attempt, and I would urge you all to look at the entire report including the terms of reference, and what this council has tried to do. We have tried to learn the lessons where we went wrong last time. So this whole thing, and again, I would urge you, yes, I know you're voting on what's in the actual motion and the wording there, but the entire report, as well as the workshops, demonstrates how this council has tried to listen and wants to show its openness and transparency so that you can go back and explain to your iwi and hapu and your constituents who have voted for you how this council has tried to shape the framework for future decisions. Now, I can't say, I don't even know if I'll be here in 6 weeks, so I can't say whether it'll be in the lake, whether it's going to be in the forest, whether it's going to be on some other piece of land. That's the entire thing of what we're talking about now. So I do think we need to be a little bit careful about talking about the lake or etc. like that. This council and previous councils, to give credit where it's due, has spent tens of millions of dollars on improving the water quality of the recovered water. Tens of millions of dollars. So I think we've got to take this entire project at face value and say, you know what, we've already spent many tens of millions of dollars already. So now I don't know if the the contact bed will be a part of the future or not. That'll be for the next council and obviously your next representatives to make those calls. But I urge you to support this, and again, at the wider framework of what council is trying to set up, so that there's a future framework to show people how we make the decisions, the consultative process that we've undertaken to future progress as well. So I'm a little bit concerned when I hear people say about lakes or this or that. This is just about a framework about how we move forward. I certainly have made decisions. I personally was totally against the lake being used last time. I have a more open mind towards this now, having learnt the huge amount of work that Stavros and his team have put in, and in collaboration with Te Arawa and through Told. So I think we need to look at all this, but also the stuff that we've already done to improve the recovered water, from wastewater to recovered. And I ask that that entire process be part of the framework when you go back to your iwi and hapu and your marae and start the explanation process. So we're part of the consultation process, but so of course are you, and you're just as much as part of this as we are. So I'll be supporting this, Mr. Chair, and I urge everyone around this table too. And I'm disappointed at Councillor Kiriopa, but I understand her reasons why. But again, I do point out, let's also look at all the work that we've done prior, since the 6 years ago. We need to have a solution. I didn't come onto council to kick the can down the road and put it off. We're finally starting on a process to get solutions. So I urge support from everybody, and also when you go out to your iwi, hapu and marae, that they give you support too. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Before moving to the motion, to vote on it, the move of the motion, Councillor Wade.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think I'm going to repeat too many of the previous comments that Councillor O'Brien, I think Regional Councillor Te Taru White, and also our Deputy Mayor and others have already articulated very well. I think this is, in addition to their comments, I would say that this is the realistic approach, I think, and I also support Te Taru's comments around that we need to ensure that we do that consultation early and that we do it right, and to mitigate those past instances where we did hear from other members of the community that said otherwise. The previous attempt at this, I would say, I think we can definitely learn. We have, as Councillor O'Brien has mentioned, we have learned from that. Some things I think went right, some things did not. We have learned from that, and I do also really hope that we will take those learnings and ensure that this process this time will be done right. The stage 1 criteria, which is essentially the baseline feasibility. I think there is agreement that that there are those baseline markers on whether or not it is feasible. But the stage 2 values, I think, was the main conversation that we all contributed towards, especially around those weightings. And I remember that session where we all came together and, we all put forward our weightings, how we viewed it. I think everyone had the majority had a different view on the weightings, but I think this is the balance. And again, as Deputy Mayor Kai Fong has mentioned, is the first step towards this process. And so, with all of this, we have to also, I really think that we need to understand that, hundreds of millions of dollars of investment into our infrastructure is, I think, essentially at stake here as well. Because the last thing I would want us to see, and I've mentioned this before, is for us to go down a Palmerston North route and end up having to find hectares of land, which, where are we going to get that in a caldera, and also put in hundreds of millions of dollars to make that solution possible. And we talk, certain councillor talks about ratepayer money. I mean, obviously with all of our decisions, we take that heavily into account. But that option would be probably the worst that I could imagine our ratepayers having to foot. So we need to come to the table. We need to ensure that we work with our partners correctly and get this done right, so that we can put all that so that we can have all of that investment that we've already put into our infrastructure to work, and yes, look after the well-being, the economic and the environmental well-beings that are absolutely those outcomes that are absolutely intergenerational and important to our community. So I think in support of those previous comments by the other members around this table, very happy to be moving this motion. Yes, do not want to be kicking this can down the road any further. We need to start somewhere. This will start that. And as Deputy Mayor Kai Fong mentioned, tomorrow we will be discussing the construct of that working group. And so I would say if any of the members are interested in that, to keep an eye out for tomorrow's meeting. But with that, I am happy to be moving this, and I also would urge the members around this table to vote in support of this as well, for the betterment of our entire community and also for the future of for our city and its development. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. And now I'm going to put the motion to the vote. Could you please raise your right hand if you are in favour of the motions we've gone through? Those in favour, please raise your right hand. Those against? Anyone abstaining? You have a vote recorded. Thank you very much. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Now we come to item 8 on the agenda, which is our closing karakia. But before inviting James Hamiora to to do the closing karakia. I just wish everybody the best in the upcoming elections or your retirements or whatever. All those, and even those in the backbenches over there, wish you well there, Jude, and the regional council and all those, and especially to our Lani, wish you all the best in you with the whānau.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just for reference, can I be referred to in the minutes as a member of Tātou o Te Arawa, not a regional councillor? And therefore, I might like to put into the conflict of interest that I am a Bay of Plenty regional councillor.
You are.
On matters of council concern, I may make some comment at some point, and I'd like that noted.
You're helpful. You're very helpful. Kei a koe kariki mō tātou e tēnei rawa.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Chair, and through you. May I just make some very quick points, please, given that this is our last committee meeting before the next round of elections, and to say how wonderful it has been for us to be back at the table. With a little while coming, but we absolutely appreciate and was long overdue for us, but we have welcomed the opportunity to be back. Katai, karua. While being at the table, we've been able to raise, in consultation with our council friends, up to 5 projects, which is a really big plus for our committee. So tēnā koutou. I want to acknowledge the relationships that have been created, again, especially since we've been back at the table, both through the senior leadership team and also the operational teams here in council. I may go as far as to say that prior to coming back onto the table, we didn't enjoy the level of engagement that we have, at least since the beginning of the year. And there's 2 wonderful ladies sitting behind us who are at the forefront. So that's Judy and that's Kayla, by the way, who have represented us with great humility, but also with great commitment to continue to develop that relationship. We've enjoyed the early engagement. So I just do want to refer to the recovered water project, because we have had some early on conversations, some heads up, and Councillor, we will take on board the suggestion, invitation for us to dig into the project and to understand. A real highlight for us was the hui that we had at Tamati Kapua, our last meeting, and it just felt so good to have our committee sitting in our tupuna whare, Tamati Kapua. And just as an aside, a conversation that we've been having amongst ourselves, that if the opportunity or occasion arises, that we would like to explore the opportunity to take the new council onto Tamati Kapua when it's sworn in. Finally, I just want to acknowledge and wish our whanaunga, Councillor Kiriopa, all the best in your new journey and your new ventures, and thank you for your mahi and your support of Te Tātou. To Councillor Baki here, newly appointed or reappointed, you did say that you're not sitting back, resting on your laurels, that the mahi still goes on, and to all other members of council, current and at the local and regional level, wish you all the very, very best in the upcoming elections in September and October. And finally, We hope to continue this relationship with the new council when it comes in. Nō reira, tēnā koutou. And I notice Kingi's at the back there, so perhaps do you want to close up for us? Kingi, tēnā koe. Kia ora tātou.
Tēnā tātou. Tēnā tātou I roto I tēnei noho. Ngā kōrero, ngā kaupapa I kōrero hea, I whakapaua, I whakapuakina. Nō reira tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. The amount of kōrero, the amount of debate and the amount of whakawhiti kōrero, we acknowledge that today as we finish with our karakia, a pau hehiri, pau rarama, pau o te whakaaro, pau o te tangata, pau o te aroha. Ko te pau e here nei a tātou, mauri ora ki a tātou katoa, whano hara mai te toki, haumi e hui e tāiki e. Nā tātou.
Nui. Nā